Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Interview LA. And today, I got a special treat for y'all. Y'all don't even know who this is, but y'all about to find out right now. I got Mr. Chris Beene in the building. He's the community manager and vice president for JP Chase, JP Morgan Chase. I got to get it right. I've been trying getting it right. He's also a father, and he's also a husband, and just a stand-up black man. So, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Beene, thanks for joining us, Chris. Appreciate you, man.
Nah, I appreciate you having me, Keith. It's an honor to be here at TGN and, just looking to expand on what we're doing together in the community for 2023. So thank you for having me.
So let's jump right into it. I know a little bit about your background story. I know that you're not originally from Los Angeles, but at this point, like I guess you would say that you are from Los Angeles, or tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and how it led you to do what you do today.
Um, so to elaborate on kind of being from LA, I know I'm live. So I've been here half my life. So it kind of makes me a Californian, but I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest from the age of 5 with my mother, who was a single mother. During that time, I actually grew up during a crack epidemic, where I saw it ravage, it kind of go through my household and also my community. So just growing up in general as a young black man, I saw the effects of drugs and gangs as they started to infiltrate our neighborhoods and things like that. And a lot of people get caught up.
And this is in Oregon, right? The gangs,
This is in Oregon.
right? And most people wouldn't think Oregon has that kind of, I don't know, I guess trouble, or what's the what would you, how was that like, the difference between, I guess, gang life there, and then also having some experience with it in LA.
Um, you know, there's underserved neighborhoods in every state. A lot of times people think about Oregon and they're thinking predominantly people who are Caucasian,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a population of African Americans and also of Hispanic and Latinos. Um, so it did move from Southern California all the way up to the Pacific Northwest and throughout the United States. So now we all kind of watch the show Snowfall,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, they see it for what it is today, but I actually lived that. And as they were, you know releasing these drugs in Southern California, they were distributing them, all throughout the United States. And Portland was no different, Seattle was no different.
Mm-hmm.
So along with the drugs came the gangs.
Mm-hmm.
My view of gangs is a little different than other people, because gangs are actually formed as a form of people having family. And during a time when I saw these drugs kind of coming through our neighborhood, obviously our parents were distracted and things like that. So it was more of a brotherhood to protect each other. And in my case, I was blessed enough to where people saw my talents and they knew I had an out. And these gang members actually were more like my brothers, and they forced me not to get join a gang, and they often threatened to beat me up if I hung out too long with them
Mm-hmm.
and their activities. So um, yes, Portland, Oregon has gangs. It has its own troubles, but I spent my first 18 years growing up in Portland, Oregon, and then I was able to use my athletic abilities along with some book smarts to further educate myself and go to school. And that was very important to me because I always saw my mom working 16-hour days. I have a relationship with my dad, but he wasn't someone who was actively there on a day-to-day basis. And I just knew that I needed to make myself uncomfortable to achieve success. And that's what happened when I went to school. At first, I thought it was more about um, me playing sports, but me being a natural hustler that I am, I start to see that school was a valuable way to gain access to finances as well. And once I found that out, uh, I went from being like a 2.5 student to a 3.5 and higher. And then it just kind of gave me a clear view of the path I wanted to take once I graduated, which at the time was a graphic artist. And I loved it, but I didn't really like it. And somebody asked me, a question is like, you're a people's person. Why are you behind the scenes? And from that day on, I took on the role of being involved in some form of the community or the areas that surrounded me. And for the last 13 years, I've been blessed to be with JP Morgan Chase in various roles. And these roles actually helped me help our community of Inglewood before the gentrification kind of stepped in.
So let me ask you, how'd you get from Oregon to LA? What was was it a job? Was it a nice young lady? It could have been, what drove you this way?
So it was a combination. Um, Originally, my ex-wife was going to school here, and I always wanted to come to Southern California, just seeing it on TV. So it was a grand opportunity for me to embrace a bigger market.
Mhm.
I also wanted to get out of Portland, Oregon, which was it predominantly. I mean, it rained majority of the time,
Right.
so about 200 days out of the year, and just being honest with you, I used to see the Great Western Forum on TV. I used to see the palm trees, and I always wanted to kind of take it in. But when I arrived here in 2001, it was crazy because I was driving down Prairie, and I passed the forum, and it didn't look so great anymore.
Mm.
They had
Mhm.
sucked the life out of it because they had taken the main attractions down to the Staples Center, and I didn't see any palm trees as well.
Mm.
And I was like, oh man, this was a facade. This was something that wasn't real that they were presenting to me. And just honestly, from that point on, I had just said a prayer to myself that I wanted to be a part of the change that happened in Inglewood. And by the grace of God, He's put me in position to do that. Like I said, through various conversations, mainly through home ownership, being able to give people, those gems or those tools before they started building the stadiums,
Mhm.
where they were buying in the 200 range
Right, when it was affordable.
when it was affordable.
Right.
So just being able to make that transition from growing up in Portland, Oregon to California to Inglewood, it just all was like I guess you want to say some form of progression in my journey.
Yeah. Do you ever have any do you feel like you gonna go back to Portland and do something the same as you're doing in Inglewood? Because you're giving Inglewood life a lot of life, and we're gonna get into that in a sec. But do you feel like, like you said, you as a community person, do you feel more attached to Inglewood more than you do Oregon or
Well, Inglewood is my baby. I have a lot of love for Oregon. Actually, I am I help wherever help is needed.
Mhm.
So, for example, I'm in the works of putting together financial health workshops in Portland, Oregon via Zoom. And with technology, you could be anywhere delivering this
Right,
content.
right, right, right.
And with people finding out what I do for a living, it started to expand my scope as well. So I have partnerships that I do nationally as well. So my heart is in Inglewood, but wherever I see that there's black and brown and need help, that's where I'm going to go to help. It doesn't matter, what part of the United States it's in.
So I ask this question for people often that are from here, but this will be a little bit more interesting for you because you have two experiences. Wherever you are, wherever you live from, wherever you're from, where you live at, there's advantages and disadvantages. I usually ask, what do you think the advantages was from growing up in LA that it's giving you as an adult? But I want to ask you, because you know the real difference, what advantages you think that you've gotten because you came from Oregon to LA? Like, do you feel like you got any advantages given it being from there versus being from here?
Definitely, definitely. Especially with what's going on that we see on TV, with racial tensions from the president elects that were
Mhm.
here prior to police brutality and things like that. It taught me the valuable lesson that there's good people in all shades, um, and there's also bad people in all shades as well.
Mhm.
And I never wanted to kind of you know have a blind eye towards that. I wanted to be very realistic. So um, I would say this: just growing up in Portland, Oregon, when you deal with other races, they you're going to know what you're dealing with.
Mhm.
Coming to LA now, it's more of something you have to navigate. Uh, you have to kind of do a little more research with the people you're dealing with because people have their own hidden agendas. But
Mhm.
just me being able to understand that I was a minority and how to use that to my power, how not to fall into the stereotypes. It kind of prepared me when I came here to LA to know what I was going to embrace, knowing the power of me being a black man,
Mm.
and so forth. And I like to illustrate this because I have 3 black sons and a black female daughter. That this is important to me because they look up to me every day, and they need to understand the power every time they walk outside that door. Not to be in fear, but just to walk out with your chest kind of poked out and be able to speak your truths, and at the same time be able to help those who are not as fortunate as us, to be able to pull them up as opposed to leaving them by themselves.
I think anytime there's an advantage, there's also the opposite. It's a disadvantage. What disadvantages do you think you grew up with, or being from Oregon gave you when coming to LA?
Um, well, I have a natural tan, as you all can see, and a lot of people would say that's a disadvantage, but in my case, I see the power of who I am as a black man,
Mm,
and how
okay.
it can it can be beneficial for those who are coming up behind me. You guys got to understand, like, being a black man, you're gonna be uncomfortable every time I get in my car, every time I leave my house. But I've also learned to lean on my faith and understand that God has put me in a position to where I can help people. So I'm a person who really doesn't look at, like, the negatives or the adversity. I think that adversity has made me much stronger as a person. Like, it's the reason why I am the way I am today is because if I would have saw the crack, running through my house, or running through my neighborhood, and kind of just fell into that situation, then I could have went down that road to been one of the people selling
Mhm.
crack, or probably been in jail, or possibly losing my life because of it. But I was able to see, the negatives, turn them into positives, but at the same time, kind of help the people that were surrounding me as well. Like, I had to have some tough conversations at an early age, and I think those things at that time was a disadvantage because being somebody who's like between 10 to 14 and having these tough conversations with adults is a little intimidating. But now that I'm a professional, it helps me address the elephant in the room. It helps me learn how to have a tough conversation that turns into a positive. It teaches us as people of color, being uncomfortable is a form of growth, and when you become complacent, then that could be like a bad road to go down. But just learning how to be uncomfortable, and being comfortable in that, is probably how I kind of use my disadvantages to be an advantage.
Yeah, I can imagine it being a culture shock almost, where you're in a place where, like I said, there's mixed culture, and then you come to a place that's predominantly Black and Hispanic. It has to be. I mean, even me, I spent some time in the IE, and then coming down, to LA during high school was for like, oh wow, there's there's more of me here. So I can only imagine. And moving on to you as a professional, because I want to know a little bit about that. What were you doing before you got into the banking aspect? And now you don't really even do banking now. I mean, I guess it's still a banking industry because you technically work for a financial institution, but you don't. You are more so connected to the people, which is a very interesting role.
Yes.
How'd you get into this? Like, where'd you start, and how'd you land the role that you have now?
So I've always been about the people. I originally started in the real estate sector, and I was a mortgage professional. Not much.
Well, hold on, real quick, not to cut you off. What job was you doing before?
That's what I was doing.
So that
So
was your first job.
so my first job out of college was a graphic designer. I
Okay.
worked for Konica Minolta for 2 years as a graphic designer.
Okay. So you know Photoshop a little bit, huh?
Photoshop,
Okay, I see you. I see you. I see you.
Cork. I know it might be telling my age, but Cork Express,
I
and
don't know nothing about that.
yeah. So that was the all those things. I realized that when I was doing it for somebody, a company, it was different for doing it for myself, and I didn't love it as much. And I found myself often by myself, and I was like, that's not my true that's not my true gift.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was good at it, but my gift was to be able to talk to people, to be able to paint
Mm-hmm.
a picture to people, to be able to just give them real life examples and not too high level. But at the same time, if I needed to go high level, I could do that as well. I could switch the script, as they say. And So I did that for 2 years. And funny thing, really quick story. My brother-in-law was in the real estate game, and one day he came home and he put a check on the table. And it was for like $75,000, and I was like, "Man, they paid you for your whole year in one check?" And he started laughing, and he was like, "No, this was what I made last month."
Wow.
And I literally went in and resigned the next day. Turned in all my stuff, and I just took a leap of faith, and you know, at first it was a little scary, but then I started to understand how it could help people, and it became very lucrative for me. Unfortunately, 2008 happened, and me and my business partners had our come to Jesus moment. We saw the market kind of, going down, and I used to read the Wall Street Journal every morning, and they told me, they said, you should go and work for a financial institution, as an investment banker. And that's where Chase, Wells Fargo was in the picture. And Wells Fargo actually gave me the biggest offer.
Okay. Let's talk
And
about it.
and that day was very eye opening to me because I actually said a prayer. And I'll tell you guys a little bit about this prayer. I was coming from making six figures, like $250,000 a year, and I was entering back in the financial world where they were offering me about $30,000 to $40,000 a year.
Wow.
And
So you left a $250,000
well, I didn't really leave
job.
it.
Okay.
The market faltered,
Okay.
so I had to pivot, and that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me because it humbled me, um, and it just kind of made me refocus, and it started to kind of shape my purpose. So I came into the bank at a very low salary, but I said the prayer to God, if He gets me in, that I know I can make the money. That's not my worry. Money is not my worry. It's what kind of effect on the people I can make, and I wanted to be able to be that different. So I took that approach as a licensed banker at J.P. Morgan Chase, and I was able to, like I said, educate people about home ownership in Inglewood. Um, I was able to educate people about investments, how to look at them, how not to look at them. And that gained me exposure in different ways where, I was eventually tapped on my shoulder and asked to share my gifts with other people.
Mhm.
That was a little hard for me because honestly, I never really wanted to manage people. That's a task in its own. And with me having four kids at home, the last thing I want to do was come in and deal with like 12 or 15 other individuals who had their own thing going
Right.
on top of what I had going on at home. So that was definitely something that I was uncomfortable doing. A lot of times it gave me a lot of heartburn and things like that, just dealing with this different scenarios. But God always had his hand on my shoulder, and he was like, continue to do the work. And in Inglewood, the community accepted me so well,
Hmm.
they started to make me understand that I was a pillar in the community. And then being a black man running a bank, in what I say now is the business hub of the world, Inglewood, with the Intuit Center, with SoFi, with the Great Western Forum being there. Everybody wants to come to Inglewood.
Yeah, and I just think they put that movie theater there too,
Yep.
which is going to be. I mean, we know it's coming. Clipper Stadium coming. It's changing. I was there the other day, and I was like, wow, I used to be scared to walk down the street. Now it's a whole place. So historically, I guess black, I don't know, maybe Hispanic, I don't want to speak for them, but definitely the black community has had trouble trusting banks, right? And that has been a whole thing. I know even growing up, my dad was like, don't put all your money in the bank. We keep the whole old shoebox method because you don't get a lot of money back and all this stuff. What are some common misconceptions that you think the black community has about not just Chase, but I guess, the banking industry in general?
I mean, it goes back from, generation to generation of different curses that we have. But, there's been a lot of preconceived notions that, banks, um, act a certain way of people of color. What I do with JP Morgan Chase is me being a community manager, it allows me to build that level of trust. The community manager's role is to get the message across in regards to the racial equity commitment, which is that $30 billion commitment that Chase has put back into
Mm-hmm.
Black and Brown communities or underserved communities to build this trust, to say we know where you're at. They've also broadened like our guidelines because we know everything cannot fit inside one box.
Mm-hmm.
So historically we've always just kind of been behind the eight ball, and now we need to understand that whenever a bank is trying to make that type of investment, not only are they about us, that tells us they have foresight. And I'm very real when I speak about this. Like, I work for JP Morgan Chase, but I work for the people first.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about the people. And they're not going to make that type of investment if they don't know we're the future. You could just look at TV. Um, I'm not saying this in to throw any shade towards anybody, but everybody's about African American culture,
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's popular now.
no, it's popular. Like I said, like when I was growing up, and this is part of me growing up in Portland, Oregon. Um, you know, it was the prototype was if you was straight up, straight down, and really have a lot of curves. You know what I'm saying? And they were making fun of people if they had big lips and things like that. Now, I'm walking around, I'm seeing people get lip injections. They're changing their body parts. You know, they are they're emulating, our culture, and I'm like, they know where the money is.
Right.
Me being from me, well, I'm saying I'm from Inglewood, but me uh being raised as an adult through Inglewood, I've seen that there's a lot of talent that comes to Inglewood.
Mm-hmm.
Producers, doctors, lawyers, some of our best filmmakers, actresses, you name it. It's a lot of talent that comes through our underserved communities. And my job now is to help them transition to what they're going to do once they make that money, because they can't go to a check cashing place anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you predominantly see in our neighborhoods: check cashing places, liquor stores. Now Chase is saying, you know what? We not only want you to come in and we want you to have the relationship with us, that's building the trust aspect. We want to now have somebody who looks like you, who talks like you,
Right.
who
Right.
goes through the everyday things that you go through.
So,
So
so, so let me ask you this: do you ever feel like you may be the token black guy for
no,
JP Morgan Chase?
never. Because the one thing that Chase allows me to do is to be authentically myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what I don't do is I don't switch up for anybody. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I took one of Deion Sanders' interviews a couple months ago to heart, and when the gentleman came on screen, he was like, "Why are you switching up?"
I seen that. Right.
And the guy didn't know how to come back. And one of the truest gifts I have is just being authentically myself and being able to be able to relate to whoever I talk to. So I'm
Yeah.
like a chameleon. That's one of those gifts of growing up in Portland, Oregon,
Mm-hmm.
of knowing who I'm in front of, how to present myself, because this is corporate America. And I can't always have that conversation like I'm talking to my homeboys. Sometimes I gotta flip the script and be able to talk about key performance indicators, being able to explain the grids or how I plan something out, and me being able to do that in front of not corporate America, but me being able to illustrate that in front of other Black young men is key.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. And like I said earlier, there's this relationship with banks that people don't necessarily have. Me, I would say for sure, my relationship with Chase is I trust Chase more because of you, because I met you, and you've been a friend to me. You know, and before I even had an account with Chase or whatever the case may be, you were definitely looking to invest into what I had to do or pour into what I was doing. And I would say that they definitely did a great job of choosing you because it's almost like what was that guy, the the Black Godfather they called him? You know what I'm talking about? His name is I did the whole documentary on him. I can't remember his name, but he was just good with people, and that's what made him who he was. And I think that you had that same aura. You just everybody says the same thing about you. Chris is a great guy. Um, Another question I want to ask about banking, because now money is changing, and I'm sure you see it firsthand. I'm sure you're in the conversations in the room about it. If you're not, please clarify with me. But people are thinking like money is changing. Like, is it going all digital? Is that the way to go? Is it, should you still be keeping money, cash in your shoebox at home, or should you still be keeping money in the safe? What should people be doing with that extra money they have around? Should they put it in the bank, or should they hold on to it?
So just like I tell everybody, is how you make money on your money. Um, we have to understand that the I don't directly, because I used to be more on the retail side and more on the on that side of the bank, but now more on the community aspect. So I don't really talk product anymore. But when you think about money, everything is going to evolve. Go back to the day where, and I'll use my mom for an example. Back when I was growing up, she was used to records and tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 90s, then they start to make the transition to, CDs. Then it starts becoming like you got your first iPods,
Right.
things like that. So that's how money is. There's always going to be things that change, but what doesn't change is that money making money for you. And that's where it not being at your house
Mm-hmm.
and a mattress uh buried underneath the house. Because what people don't understand is, what if you get robbed?
Right.
What if a house burns down? What if the money mildews? And I've seen that where people have buried money underneath the house. They brought into a bank, money's mildewed. We can't accept it. Um,
Wow.
there's always ways for you to make money on your money. You just have to do the research.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was able to kind of make my mark in Inglewood. Was I was able to kind of hear a person out, and that's my main thing. Like when you talk about who I am and how I deal with people, I reiterate this. Like I would tell you the same information if I didn't work for Chase.
Mm.
And I'm about the people because my mom taught me you want to treat people how you want to be treated.
Right.
And that always sticks in my mind. And I'm like, would I want to be treated like that? So I when I'm doing the investment, I'm gonna give you the same advice that I would give my own mom. And I'm gonna tell you when I wouldn't do it.
Right.
So I'm gonna give you both ends of the equation, and then we're gonna make an educated decision together. And that's how I kind of can say it's better to just keep up with the times. If you want to be a person who is trendy and you want to deal with the crypto and you want to deal with these different forms of money, I say, you know what? It's never a bad idea to take a chance,
Right. No, it's not. I mean, you're gonna find out what happens.
one way or another.
um, so with the banking industry, and now you moved into which you talked about this $30 billion commitment, right? Can you talk more about your role now? I know like your community, but I want people to get a clear understanding of what you actually do.
So I'm the liaison or the quarterback between JP Morgan Chase and the
Hmm.
community. With the racial equity commitment, what we do is we try to provide, well, we not try, but we provide financial health workshops and literacy classes for our community, not only for Inglewood, but for anywhere that needs
Mm.
help. And that ranges from the age of kindergarten all the way up to our elderly, because we don't want to leave anybody behind.
Hmm.
But we definitely want to set that foundation with our youth. And then we have established relationships inside different entities like schools, libraries, nonprofit organizations.
Hmm.
um, the curriculum is something that's sustainable over a long period of time. So it's not like a one hit type of situation.
Hmm.
It allows us to keep delivering this message in different ways that make sense and that meet people where they're at, not kind of talking over their head. As we gradually work our way through that, then another part of my role is to just educate people on what generational wealth is and the
Right.
different ways to build generational wealth. So through home ownership, through life insurance, and that's another part where we go back to, you say, well, do I feel like I'm a token? No, because they allow me to be transparent, and many a times I'm able to be authentically Chris when I'm delivering these messages. You know, Hitting on a personal note, I there's life and death with everything, and I experienced that in November when I lost my oldest son. And that just allowed me to understand the importance of life insurance, not
Right.
to be benefit to me, but being able to leave a legacy for my son, leave a legacy for his son, and to build generational wealth through that aspect. That has been like something that I speak about, and I use an example, to this day when I'm speaking to my audiences. We also, with the racial equity commitment and what I do, we have a strong connection with small business owners. So we do a lot of mentoring for small businesses. We help small businesses learn how to, support their ecosystem, show them ways to obtain grants and things like this. And then we have a mentoring program through our senior business consultants, which a lot of times if you went out and you were looking for those services, they would be quite costly.
Right. Right.
But these services are free. These are a 6 month program that you go through with some of our senior business consultants, and I'm gonna give a special shout out to my right hand senior business consultant, Miss Lisa Stevens, which is one of the best in the game.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out to Lisa Stevens, man. She's awesome.
she's awesome, and she covers um, Crenshaw Center, Inglewood, Long Beach, Compton. Um, but she helps us get the words out there to hold these workshops for small business owners.
Hmm.
She has a very unique approach. She's one of those people who say if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, and
Right.
she will put you on the spot to kind of do your pitch right when she meets you.
I did
So
it. I've done it. I've done it with her. Yeah. So yeah,
so
she's not lying.
so the whole realm of it, and then the
Hmm.
last part of what I do is the workforce diversity part,
Hmm.
and that's key for me because there's not a lot of people who look like me as far as males are concerned
Yeah.
in the financial sector. There are some that have been able to help me along the way, but I'm direly out there looking for young brothers.
Yeah.
Like that is probably the realest thing I can say because part of the fear of banks is when you walk in, people don't look like you,
Right. No, for sure. Right.
and
It's intimidating.
and it's intimidating.
It's intimidating.
So just imagine walking in and you're talking to me.
Right.
I'm gonna change the game
Right.
because I'm gonna make you feel like when you walk in a bank, it's not a bank, it's home. You know, even when I was a manager, I was that manager where they let me step outside the box where I would play music outside my branch. I would start with the Frankie Beverly and Mays in the morning and switch it up to New Edition in the afternoon. And but I had to find out what my people needed, what they needed to feel comfortable, and that's what the racial equity commitment does is that workforce diversity part not only invest back into us, making sure that we're in not only the retail spots, but we are also able to take advantage of some of these higher level positions in the private bank, in the commercial bank, in the middle market banks, stuff that you don't see on the surface. um, we also are doing we have partnership with historically black colleges and also historic Hispanic colleges where we are helping them do internships during the summer with the private bank and also learning roles like financial analysts. And what we do is we actually fly them to New York. They take part in
Wow.
this, and this gives them exposure and it gives them a leg up when they're exiting college, to be able to apply for these roles and
Right.
to get them because of these relationships and to start off with salaries that are very competitive. And also while they're doing this work to be fairly compensated, like the
Hmm.
executives who have other skin tones, and Chase is very adamant in doing that. And that's why I'm proud to be a community manager. That's why I'm proud to deliver this message for the racial equity commitment. And, just through us being about that talk and walking that walk, Chase over the last couple of years has been led by very powerful people of color.
Right.
Um, Probably the latest one, she's no longer with us. Her name was Tashonda Duckett. Tashonda Duckett is one of probably the most powerful African American women
Mm.
in the United States. I'm honored. She works now for TIAA, but she always gives a lot of shouts out to Chase just because we let her blaze her trail here. And now for Community Bank, I'm actually led by the fearless leader, Miss Deidre Porcher, and she's a very influential individual, woman of color, not only in LA but just throughout the United States, and she represents J.P. Morgan Chase very well, and I'm very honored to say she lives here in in the greater Los Angeles area. So we have access to her, and she's an advocate for making sure that our Black and Brown communities get every resource they need.
Not to mention, we made a little history together because the first person to bring live broadcast to a Chase location, right? That was a it's never been done before. So you're definitely breaking barriers. You're giving them something new that they never had before. That's how I mean your relationship is built. And I know you got to get out of here, so I want to ask you a final question because this is an important question, and this is recording this forever, so people will never have wonder what you would have said. So if this was your last day, because one day we all have one, and I like to provide the opportunity if you were to be able to leave your people with something, and we could start with your children. What would you want to tell them?
I would just tell you to attack the world with no fear. Understand, especially from my boys, that at the end of the day, one day you'll be the captain of your own ship,
Hmm.
and you just want to be proud how you are leading your people. And when you lay down at night, you feel good about yourself. You feel like you've made a change. You made a significant change to not only the people around you, just people in general. And I say that without there being any color attached.
Hmm.
I just say just being a very humble individual and attacking thing with hello with a
So you there?
servant,
Yep.
yeah, with a servant's heart, and just leading by example, and not doing it through like talk.
Right. But be about that action.
Yes, sir.
Um, and I always tell people, they have like immediate family, whether it be like our siblings, if you had any brothers or sisters. What would you want to tell them?
Immediate family, I just say embrace the unknown.
Hmm.
Um, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that's the main message I would leave for people of color in general, or just anybody in general. Challenge yourself.
Hmm.
Um, don't always do what's easy. Um, ask questions, and at the end of the day, there is no right or wrong answer. Just understand that we're all in this together, and if you're a person who has an immense amount of knowledge, um, pull somebody up.
Hmm.
Don't leave them behind. What I'm saying? Us collectively, the only way we're going to become more powerful as a minority is us helping each other and providing that knowledge that we have. And I think that's where I'm at. I don't believe I know too much. I'm constantly listening to those around me, and I'm always constantly trying to learn. So for those who see this, and if this was your last day on earth, the one last words that I probably heard in my son's eulogy was, we want to experience people how they were when they were here.
Hmm.
We don't want to talk about when they're gone. So live your best life when you're here, and leave a lasting impression to everybody can understand who you were when you were here on this earth. And you want to, hopefully be seen in the lights of like, man, that was a great person.
Right. Right.
And so that's all I tell you, is just kind of experience everything while the person's here, as opposed to grieving them while they're gone.
Last but certainly not least, your wife. What would you want to tell your wife, man?
You know what? I think just being married to my queen um, has probably been one of the most significant things in my life. Um, I just want to tell her, I tell her every day I love her, but I just want to tell her thank you for being my backbone, and I know sometimes with my role, it seems like that she's walking behind me, but in all aspects, she's always beside me.
Mhm.
And I'm forever grateful to her. It hits different when I call her my wife, even though we bicker back and forth and stuff like that. It's just I wouldn't want to do this game called life with anyone else except for her. And I'm extremely grateful to the man above. For just allowing me to get to this point. So I just want to tell her, man, I love her, and I look forward to growing old with her. And if this is our last day, together at any point, man, I just want us to leave with no regrets, and just know that you are the truest blessing that has taken part in my life.
Beautiful. Well said, man. And I want to say, man, a lot of stuff you said, man, you are a super impactful person on the community. I've seen you work with people. I've seen you go through your own turmoils, your own ups and downs. We've built a relationship maybe over a year now. and it's beyond what JP Morgan Chase has, how we've originally combined. Now we have a personal relationship, and I will say, man, you are definitely a stand-up gentleman. I respect you. I admire you, and I'm motivated by what you've created and what you continue to do for the community of Inglewood, which is my city. So everybody, you have just witnessed Mr. Chris Beene. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. That was dope. That was dope because you make it comfortable.
Yeah, man.